Okay. Hi, everyone. Paul Taylor here. It is 12 noon, so it is time for the personal brand, taking your personal brand to the next level, Biz 501 session. So thanks very much for joining me. This is going to be virtual, so kind of cool. Google Hangout on air, so it's kind of nice. You guys can watch it whenever you'd like. So if you're watching not right now, hello. If you're watching later, hello to you as well. So I am just going to get started because this is recorded, and I'm assuming that most of you, if you're interested in this, will watch it a little bit later. So, anyways, thanks for joining me. Personal brand, taking it to the next level. I think we'll just jump right in. I have a session for you guys that will hopefully explore a little bit kind of what a personal brand is, just a really high level personal brand awareness. What we've done so far when it comes to working with your personal brand, and then a couple of different areas that I'm going to go through, which are part of your personal brand, including the online part of your brand and the in-person part of your brand, and then how to kind of wrap that all up together and work with that. So anyway, so let's get started. I am going to share Prezi, so you will not get to see my smiling face anymore. Anyways, so you will see the presentation that I have, and I think at the end, I'm not really going to open it up for questions just because I think I'll take questions maybe more via email or personal, like one-on-one meetings. If you do have a question that you would like me to address, feel free to go to the event page and post it on there, and I will get back to you for sure. So anyways, I am going to share my screen, so bear with me for a second, and we'll get started. Okay, so welcome to Personal Brand, taking it to the next level. So Friday, November 20th, like I said, virtual delivery of the Personal Brand Workshop for Biz 501. So let's get into it here. So you are a brand. So the people that I am talking to right now are first-year MBA students or fast-track MBA students. You are a brand. Your brand is influenced by what you do, what you think, the way you feel, and what people see. Brands should grow and develop with you. As you explore through your MBA program, your brand right now could change. It could develop. It could grow. And I fully expect that when you leave this program, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and get better and better. And so hopefully some of these things that we go through today can help you. But I do think it's worth noting that a brand should be flexible and should grow and develop. That's really important to know. Brands can either be positive or negative. There are very many things that you can do that influence positively around your brand. So, reaching out to the social media channels that you're interested in, giving a good, clear, concise message of yourself. Things like that are really good positive things. From a negative aspect, let's say you submit an application to a company and you have lots of spelling errors or spelling mistakes. Let's say you have an interview that doesn't go very well, or that you're late for the interview. I think those kinds of things can negatively affect your brand. Your brand is made up of several different things. And the first thing I think that's worth noting is your values. So who you are at the core of being a person. So your values are very important and definitely part of your brand. Attitude is another one. So are you positive or negative? Are you a glass half full kind of person? Are you a glass half empty kind of person? I think those things really do affect your personal brand. Attitude is really important. And I think even if you don't find yourself being the most positive person at all times, I think just having a positive attitude really, really helps your brand. Are you authentic? When you're communicating with people, can people sense what that authenticity is? Do you have passions in life? I think passions are always part of your brand. And, I can speak from personal experience. I've involved my passion of golf into my brand because it's important. And people say, when they talk to me, that they can really see that my eyes light up when I talk about that. And so, passion is very important. Your brand should have a purpose. So, why are you developing your personal brand? Do you want to grow as an individual? Do you want to get a good job? Getting a good job, you need to have a good personal brand. And then finally, what do you want to be known for? I will reference this a little bit later, but I think it's really important to understand what you want to be known for. Do you want to be known as someone that is positive, that is authentic, that's genuine, that likes making connections? Or do you want to be known as the person that questions everybody because they don't agree, or things like that? So again, positive and negative. So what do you want to be known for? You want to create an identity to manage perceptions and take control of the messaging that your brand represents. It should reflect your true character. And I think the one question that I would just challenge to you is, are you compelling? Are you interesting? I think that's really important as part of your personal brand. And then I think we'll talk, I'll give a couple of examples of people that have really good personal brands. Oprah, Bill Gates, Mark Cuban are three people that when I was doing my research for this, I really looked at personal brand, and I looked at them and how they've developed their personal brand. And if you look at Bill Gates definitely went from kind of being this technology giant to being, very philanthropic. And there was a very interesting transformation that happened there when it came to the money that he's earned and how he gives back. And I think that's really important to kind of note that your brand can change and it can evolve. And, Bill Gates, I think to me, has one really strong brand and something to kind of learn from. So I've switched to the next slide, and it's called What Have You Learned So Far? But I think what I'm going to start with by addressing is the quote on the right-hand side. This is anybody that's met with me before around your personal brand. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. I really think that this statement really reflects highly on what I think a personal brand is. So, I can speak from personal experience. I hope that the people that know me and that have talked about my brand, when I leave, they can say, Paul is this, this, and this. And that's the kind of impression that I hope that I'm leaving. So I hope that, with my help and with some of your effort, that you can say the same thing, that you're really proud of your brand. So some of the things that we have worked on so far that are influential in your brand. So your career story. So that was the poster board activity that we did at orientation. So the full-time students and international students would be very familiar with this. Fast track students, you guys didn't. You guys did a variation of this. But what you did in the past is very much a reflection of what you do in the future and what your personal brand kind of looks like. And to go along with that career story, we had the career narrative. And so, we call it a career narrative. Does that mean elevator pitch or career narrative? Yes, you could use those things interchangeably. But, a career narrative. So when somebody says, tell me about yourself, what are you going to say? That career narrative is a really good part of how you can kind of start with your personal brand. When it comes to your past experience, the best way to talk about your previous experience is in a way that someone can kind of paint a good picture of where you've been and what brought you to standing in front of them today. And how you talk about that and how you communicate that is very, very important. We had the Dress for Success presentation by Joanne Blake from Style for Success. That was part of orientation. And I think from an in-person brand perspective, this was really, really beneficial. Joanne went through the different levels of dress, from casual all the way up to kind of business formal, and what kind of environments are working for what areas, right? So I think dress is something that's very, very much overlooked from a personal brand perspective, but I think it's one of the more important parts. It's visually what people see about you. We had the mock interview program. We had you work on telling your stories using the situation, action, result kind of methodology around answering those interview questions. How does this influence your brand? Well, you need to understand the importance of understanding and knowing how to tell these stories. Do you want your brand to be known as someone kind of that really understands themselves, or someone that doesn't? And the way that you communicate, some of your verbal and nonverbal cues, to me, are really, really important to kind of take into consideration. And I talked at the start around kind of having a positive or negative brand, and the people that took some time to prepare for the mock interviews and took some feedback and utilized some of that feedback and implemented it into their day-to-day lives, are definitely starting their way to kind of building a great personal brand in a very positive way. If you participated in the mock interview, didn't really take any notes, didn't take it seriously, to me, that would be almost like a negative part of your personal brand, because, we're here to help you, and we do want to see improvement. And I think what we had to say was very helpful through the mock interview process. So just something to think about of how a mock interview can influence your personal brand. We had the LinkedIn session, and that was one that I did. How can LinkedIn be part of your personal brand? Well, there's an online version of your personal brand, and LinkedIn's part of that. So do you have a good looking picture on your LinkedIn profile? Most of you all had an opportunity to get a headshot. Did you or did you not participate in that? That will help you. Having a great looking professional picture on your LinkedIn profile is very beneficial. Does your experience match what your resume says? Do you have a great summary that makes a positive impression on your brand? That summary area in the LinkedIn profile is a great way to kind of just simply state what your brand is. We had the team check-in, where you guys as groups and teams sat down with Maxine and shared what you really liked about some of the people that were that you were working with. That's a great way to kind of understand what your brand is being represented kind of externally. If people are saying, this person was great to work with, they were on time, they delivered their results, that's great. That's positive parts and positive building to your brand. And I think the awareness is really important to the awareness of what people are saying, and take that to heart is a very good thing for development and growth of your personal brand. Do you want to be known as someone that works really well with people, or somebody that argues? Again, I go right back to positive and negative, and I think it's really important to keep that in consideration. You had the career teams activity, where you worked with other students to learn more about them. And if you think demonstration on brand, that was a perfect one. People had to come with 5 or 10 pictures that resembled kind of who they were or what they thought. And to me, I think, what great way to represent who you are, and what kind of images kind of portray who you want to be. All of the communication and teamwork and soft skills that you've been continuing to build over the last few months have all been things that you're doing to work on your personal brand. Some examples of this include the business communication exercise for international students, where we had people come in and you could send them an email, want to meet with them. And, emails are part of your online reputation and online brand. And then Brent and I did the alumni and networking session, where we talked about informational gathering interviews. And through that, we went through an activity of sending an email, asking for a meeting. All of these things are parts of how you're continuing to build your brand. And I think it's just something to keep in mind. So I wanted to kind of just wrap up this slide by kind of talking about some things that we've already seen when it comes to deliverables and activities that you guys have participated in. Some examples of that. So we've done lots of resume and cover letter review, and have seen some great steps forward in managing your resume and your cover letter, and taking the advice that we have and utilizing that. And your resume and cover letter are definitely part of your brand, and I think the more you work on it, the better those are going to look. We had some great team check-ins with some positive people in brand building. I wasn't part of the meetings and really wasn't privy to much of the information from them, but the overall theme was that they were really good. They learned a lot about, all the students learned a lot about each other, and a lot about working with teams. We had some fantastic mock interviews with hopefully some feedback that you can start to implement in your daily stories and future interviews. And, you will have more opportunities to mock interview, and we hope that we see growth and development in that space, because I think that's something that we can all practice and work on. And finally, we have started to connect with a lot of you on LinkedIn, and are seeing some really great things. And I would be more than happy to help with anything that you would need help with when it comes to LinkedIn. But I definitely see some great strides and just some areas that, people can kind of firm up or work on to make kind of the best possible LinkedIn profile that they can. So we are going to get in. So that's what we've done so far. So I think the next step is to say, you know, what else can I work on to kind of build my brand and work on my brand? So so we're going to start with the online part of your brand, and how do you build your personal brand online? And as you can see by this word cloud, there are many, many ways you can build your brand online. I think it's worth noting that becoming kind of recognized as kind of an expert in the field that you choose kind of increases value to a company. And the way that you demonstrate that knowledge online can really, really help you not only now, but in the future. And you want to come across as kind of that subject matter expert. So, so obviously the first way to kind of build your brand online is through social media. Social media, as you can see, that's the word right at the top, and has a few parts that, a few other words that kind of link together with social media. So you have LinkedIn, you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have Google+, all social media tools. I am not saying that you have to use all of these. That is not my intention. I want to bring the awareness to you. And then, you know what, at some point you need to make the decision on what you think will best suit your personality and your goals for building your brand online. And so be careful how many tools you're using, because you want to be consistent in the messaging. And as you know, as MBA students, you guys are all very busy. You have to manage your time well. If you are on LinkedIn and on Twitter and on Google Plus and on Facebook and on Instagram, that could take up your whole day, so you wouldn't be able to study. So you need to pick the ones that, again, work for you. This is just a list of each of these platforms. And again, I'm not suggesting that you use all of them. And so we'll talk a little bit about how each of these tools help your personal brand. And I think, you know, I want to just make one mention. There's different levels of sharing and working with these social media tools. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. And then I'm going to flip to my next slide, and then I'll come back to this particular slide, because I think it's worth noting that there are different levels of sharing and different levels of interacting with social media. So the first one, Twitter. I put this first just because this is my preferred method, social media method of getting my kind of personal brand out there. Of the social media tools that we're going to talk about. This is the perfect mix of personal and professional information gathering and networking. You have the chance to follow leaders in a space that you're looking to get into. So if you're interested in supply chain or consulting or marketing, this is a great place to gather information and share in conversation if you want. I will talk again a little bit about kind of the interaction with this social media tool, but you don't have to tweet. You can just go in there and it's a great way to stay informed, and it's a great real-time platform to one, be informed, and then two, hopefully to share. LinkedIn is the second one that I'm going to talk about. So as you know, it's a professional networking tool. You want to get connected or follow influential people, companies, or groups that will help you stay informed. You want to try and share your thoughts on articles that you're reading, update with some projects that you work on and finish, and the classes that you finish. I can't express how important it is to have a LinkedIn profile that is live and active, because this is your 24/7 resume. I, as a recruiter, spent many, many hours on LinkedIn sourcing people. And, you know, if somebody had a really good LinkedIn profile that was informative, that spoke about who the person was very advantageous to some of the people that I placed around the Edmonton area. Take care of this, keep it up to date. And again, recruiters are looking at this kind of online portfolios. So Facebook is one that I want to make mention to. It definitely is more of a personal type of networking, but some people do share a lot on Facebook. And my biggest note to you about Facebook is your account and how you use it. I would suggest to lock it down as best as you can to the people that you're just connected with. You know, when we talk about negative aspects of your brand, I have actually, when I was a recruiter, I actually discounted people or took people off of my kind of top 2 list because of things that I was finding on Facebook. And it speaks to who you are, and it's fine, you know, if you go out and post pictures of you going out, but just be careful about what you post. And again, just lock it down as best as you can. I think that's just, I guess, my best tip. A minimal presence just is really important, and this is becoming one of the ways that companies and people communicate regularly. And I'm talking about all social media platforms at this point. Um, if you do not use these or know how to use them, it actually could be a detriment to you. And so I'm not, like I said, I don't think that you should use them all, but I think having an understanding of what they do and the benefit to them for you is very important. If you look at the way companies are evolving from a technological standpoint, this is becoming more of the norm. Every company has a Twitter account and a LinkedIn account and a Facebook page and a LinkedIn company page and an Instagram feed that shows pictures of what it's like to work there. There's so many places that companies are sharing information. I believe that the assumption for the companies is that people do the same in return. It's a great way for an organization to learn more about you. Again, watch the time you spend on these platforms. There's more information than you could ever possibly read. So time management is key. And I think one thing before I get into more of the statements around social media sharing, watch what you're posting. Remember that your brand will take a long time to build in a positive way, and it only takes one instant of one bad post to kind of draw it and make it more of a negative thing. So, rumors spread very quickly. Things can be shared very quickly. So just watch what you post. And I think one of the biggest things is just proofreading what you're sending out. That will probably just help you immensely. So like I said, there's varying levels of social media sharing, and I'm going to go through these with you just so you have an understanding of what this looks like. You can start off just being a listener or being somebody that gathers information through whichever medium that you want. So, you want to join Twitter, you want to follow people that are supply chain leaders. So, just gathering information. So what are some of the benefits of being a listener? Well, you become aware of a particular topic. You recognize who the potential leaders are in that space, and you're able to have good conversations with someone about that relevant topic. So let's say you are following some supply chain leaders, you go to a networking event and somebody's very involved in the supply chain field. If you are well versed in what's happening out in the world when it comes to supply chain, think about how good that conversation is going to be. You'll be able to ask good questions, you'll be able to offer input, and I think it's a great way to just, even if this is where you start and end in social media, that's fine. But I think at a minimal level, this is a great way to do that. So, the next level that I kind of have here is as a contributor. So you're like a listener, but you contribute to conversations with opinions of your own. You have the benefits of a listener where you're gathering information, but you're adding your own voice and you're adding your own say into a specific topic. And just keep in mind that these things get published and they're viewed by participants of various mediums. Let's say you have a great contribution to a LinkedIn group discussion board where you're talking about marketing, and you never know who's reading those things, and it really helps from a perspective of just getting your personal brand out there. And then finally, I think the best way to put this is as a content provider, the third and final level in kind of in the three levels of social media sharing. So you have the benefits of being a listener and a contributor, but also you add the position of being a thought leader and a subject matter expert in this specific area. And you want to be a go-to person on a specific topic and develop a great personal brand around that area. Again, I'll go back to the supply chain. If you learn something in school, talk to a company about something, and then decide to do a blog on a specific supply chain topic, you become a content provider rather than just a listener and a contributor. And that just puts you in a different space when it comes to your level of influence. So to me, I think, these are the three levels. If you ever want to talk about these and how can you get from the listener to the contributor to the content provider, I'm happy to have those conversations with you. I can speak from my own experience with social media. I definitely started as a listener. I was very worried about what people would think if I contributed or even provided content. And I would say it's taken me probably a good 3 to 5 years to make it to kind of the contributor. And I feel like I'm just tipping on the point of kind of content providing. And so, it takes a long time to grow and develop. And so I would say it's not going to happen overnight. Can you contribute right away? Of course you can, because you guys are all smart individuals and can have a great say in what you're trying to get across. Content providing, you want to make sure you're in the right place and the right time to do that. And I think that's the best piece of advice I can have for you. So I'm going to step back to the second, to the previous slide, because there's a few more words in here that I want to go through. And the first one is having your own personal website. Excuse me. So why would you need your own personal website? It's a great sole source for information just about you. It can house all of your social media platforms, or at least link to them, and you can include a blog. And it's another method for people to contact you. Personal websites can help you find jobs. Recruiters look at your online presence all the time. If you have a personal website, there are a few thing that they'd appreciate, recruiters. You obviously have some sort of technical ability. If you have technical abilities and you go and work for a company, oh, I have my own website, maybe I could help you with that project, or whatever it may be. You have a willingness to share your background and an experience. A lot of people are very reserved. They don't know, where to start, how to share, what to do. This is a great way to just be willing to share who you are as a person and what your personal brand looks like. And then finally, a personal website really speaks to the kind of person you are. If you have lots of flashy colors and really loud, blog posts and things like that, it really, I think an assumption can be made around who you are and what you're trying to represent. In comparison, you can have a very modest site that has just maybe a small picture of you, or maybe just some words about what you want your brand to look like. And there's, neither one nor the other is the right thing to do. But I think for me, I really see a lot of benefits and advantages of using a personal website. I think I'll just wrap that up by saying it's a great way to kind of demonstrate what your brand is. So how do I build a personal website? Maybe asking yourself. So there are plenty of platforms that you can share or build your own personal website. Like I said before, it's a great way to kind of house all of your information. So if you think of it as one hub of information sources. Some of the platforms that I would suggest, and I have used all of these, so I can speak to them all. So the first one is WordPress. So WordPress is just a website building tool. It's free to use at its most generic level, and just an easy way to build websites. Squarespace is another one. So Squarespace is a bit more of an advanced tool. I actually found it kind of hard to use. My technological background is pretty good. I would say that I feel like I'm very technically adept, but I still found it a little difficult and clunky to use. However, it's a great tool to, if you can, use it, and there is a bit of a charge to it, so it's really up to you. The one that I personally use for my own personal website right now is called Wix. I found it really easy. They have templates that you can kind of build from, and I thought that it made it super simple to build my own personal website. And a couple of other ones. So about.me, it's a tool that's actually its own website, and you have kind of a page within that website. But that page can be, again, linked to all of your social media tools. You can have a little saying on it and things like that. And then flavors.me is another one that I've used that I don't mind. That is the same as about.me. You have your own URL that you get and your own page within a specific site. Like I said earlier, some of these are easier to use than others, but definitely come and see me if you want to understand what all of these can do and how they can help. A couple of other just really quick notes about personal websites. I highly recommend buying your own domain. You've probably never thought of building your own website or having your own domain. If you have a personal website, it's a really good idea to have your own domain. It's not expensive, and I would suggest getting it now if it's still available, because they go really quickly. So my suggestion to you, try your first and last name together with .com or .ca or .net, and if these are taken, some variances of your name. And you want to update your site regularly. I'll talk a minute about blogging. If you have a blog, can you update it on a regular basis, whether that's once a month, once every 2 weeks, whatever that means. if you keep that fresh, the Google Analytics will come in. They'll start to track your site and how much it's being used and looked at. And I think Google Analytics is a great thing to use. And search engine optimization is a big word. I'm not going to get into that today, but if you ever have interest in search engine optimization, I definitely can help you with that. So search engine optimization is pretty much Google is a search engine, and it goes out to the different websites and looks at the sites and brings back the most popular sites. And so there are ways that you can influence your search engine optimization to hopefully land on the first few pages rather than on page 2000 of a Google search. So like I said, I was going to talk a little bit about blogging. So blogs are part of your online brand. It's a good way to distinguish yourself as an expert in your field. Blog and then share through other social mediums. A good idea is to have a blog combined with your personal website. Again, that personal website being kind of the house for all of the other tenants within that house. When you feel like you're ready, it's a real big step for someone is to kind of become that kind of content producer. And like I said, it takes a long, long time to generate that. But I want to just make mention that if you blog and you are generating content for people, you may not be in that space now, but when you finish your MBA, you may feel like you have something to share. I really think it really helps you become that recognized expert in your field. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about, so we've talked a lot, I think I've addressed every word in there. A vlog is just a video blog. And I think that I've touched on most every other thing on there. So, so some of the things that I've done and what have worked. So I have built my own website. It's all housed under one place. If you ever want to see what that is, I'm happy to share it with you. I do share on Twitter, and I probably don't talk enough about careers. I would like to share more. I do talk a lot about sports and golf and things like that. But I don't want to talk about myself anymore. I want to talk about other students that I have noticed that have done a great job when it comes to social media and sharing. So there is one student, his name is Rahul Bose. He graduated last year. I really appreciate the fact he was a great Twitter user. So he was interested in finance. He always wanted to work for a bank. That's kind of what he knew, what he wanted to do when he got here. So he started with his social media brand building. He did a great job. He started connecting with people. He started listening to what the conversations were. And then he started providing some information. So there was some trades on the stock markets. There were some companies that bought other companies. There were, financial transactions that were taking place that he was sharing, and he was offering some of his opinions. He was sharing articles. He was doing this and that. And I really commend him for that. And I think that was a great step for someone and a really easy step. So he was interested in finance. He knew that. He connected with finance people. He started sharing finance things. And, the one thing I will say about Rahul is he is now working for a bank in Toronto in a role that he was looking for. So, did he do the right things? I think he did. He did connect with campus recruiters on Twitter. He connected with, professors in finance and things like that. So to me, that was a great story of somebody that kind of built their brand in a couple of years and I believe continues to do that. And then the second person that I want to talk a little bit about is a fellow named Sonny Robbins. And so he's on on LinkedIn. And he actually writes articles and shares blog posts on LinkedIn. And to me, it's a great place to do that. You get to share it with the people that you're connected with. I believe that he influenced his brand in a positive way because of those articles and blogs that he was writing. He would write on different topics, whether it was something in his background, which was the sciences, or even just kind of careers. He thought that he'd like to write a little bit about connecting with people. And so he wrote something on that and so on and so forth. A couple of other people from a social media aspect that really, I think, do a good job. Dr. Amit Monga, he's one of the professors of finance for the MBA program. He has a very strong presence on Twitter and also does some TV spots and things like that. And then Andrew Leach is obviously in charge of the natural resources, energy, and environment specialization here. And he's a big Twitter guy. He posts a lot of tweets, but also is probably considered one of the best thought leaders around natural resources and energy and the environment. So the last thing that I didn't really make mention to, and it's right in the middle of the screen, an e-portfolio. I'm really not going to spend very much time on that. E-portfolios are just places where you can put a lot of your works, publications, projects you've worked on. the one thing I would recommend, just make sure it's okay to share those things. Let's say you did a capstone project for a company and you were had a slide deck around their corporate logo and things like that. Just make sure it's okay to share that. For most presentations that you have, you create a slide deck for those. If you ask if it's okay to put it there, having an e-portfolio of some of the presentations that you built and some of the research that you've done can really kind of go to kind of helping you be that subject matter expert. I do recommend to network professionally on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And then the last thing I want to talk about from an online perspective is your online applications. If you submit a good application to an organization, so a resume and a cover letter, that may be recognized. But if you submit a bad application to a company, so a resume and a cover letter that is full of formatting errors, full of spelling mistakes, full of just not a good application to this position that you're looking for, that could hurt your chances forever with an organization. There's always a digital footprint of what you're doing. And I think it's very important to just have that understanding that whatever you're doing, whatever you're sharing, whatever you're developing is always going to be seen. And especially from a digital aspect, big data is quite a topic of discussion right now. There is a lot of content being generated. So anyways, that's all I will talk about when it comes to your online part of your brand. But I think one of the last things I'll leave you with is make sure you proofread things. Proofread. Make sure you know what is going out. And I want to end with this kind of statement. So you can have a brand without taking it online, but we feel a well-developed personal brand is meant for the world to see. There are significant advantages to using these mediums that I've already talked about. Anyways, personal brand, there you go. That is all I have to say about online personal brand. There's another quote that I really like. So you're the chief marketing officer for the brand called you. What others say about your brand is more impactful than what you say about yourself. Okay, the in-person part of your brand. So like I said before, in-person part of your brand involves many, many different things, verbal and nonverbal cues, all of that kind of stuff. So you must be prepared to speak about who you are and what your brand is. And I think what the best thing to do is think of that short narrative from orientation, and that goes to being prepared to speak to people. It's important to dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. So I really like this saying because, you know what, it's easy to dress, you're a student, an MBA student. It's easy to dress in sweatpants and a t-shirt. But, when you're done being a student, what do you want to do? I want to work in a corporation. Well, a corporation is probably not going to allow you to dress in a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt. So, I may challenge a few MBA students. I think, we see a lot of great, professional dress through the program. Obviously, when there's events going on, you're wearing a suit and a tie or something formal. But we do recognize some of the people that come to work or come to school in the same things every day. We notice if you're wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, and we hope that that's not every day. But you know what? When I talk about positive and negative impressions that you're going to leave on people, people notice if you're dressed nicely and probably notice even more if you're not. And I will just leave that at that. You want to build your professional network through informational gathering, interviews, attending events, and being social. One of the best parts of your brand could be the network that you develop. And, you're in classes with 80 different people. You're in an MBA program with 160 full-time students and up to 500 part-time and full-time students. And this could be the best asset of your professional brand or your personal brand. And so I suggest being as social as you can. Say hi to people, be genuine, be honest. And I think that goes a long way. I had made the statement in the very first slide, how do you want to be known? And so do you want to be known as somebody that shows up on time, somebody that's a good listener, somebody that asks good questions, or someone that has a genuine interest in other people? The golden rule of treat others the way that you want to be treated. I tell my daughter that, my 4-year-old daughter that all the time. If you treat people the way that you want to be treated, and I think that works in business just as much as it does for a 4-year-old. You never know when you're going to meet someone or have something happen that could influence your career. If you're ready for this, you'll be more prepared to leave a better impression. And a little goes a long way when it comes to building your in-person brand. Coming to class in more business casual dress than jeans and a t-shirt and not sweatpants. Having good questions, always ready to ask someone that you meet, and be genuine. I think that's really important. I myself try to live in a very genuine fashion. The way that you guys see me here is the way that I am at home, is the way that I am with my friends outside of work. And I think it's very important to be genuine, the person that you are. And I'm going to say something, and I'll probably say this phrase twice because I think of how important it is. People do business with people that they know, that they like, and they trust. And some of the things that I've talked about today, both on part of your online part of your brand and in-person part of your brand, really, really resonate with me when it comes to that statement. So I'll read it again. People do business with people that they know, that they like, and that they trust. And I think you want to try and establish this. So how do you put all of this together? I've talked a lot about a bunch of different things. And I think probably one of the more important things is just to state that your brand takes time to build. You want to make sure that you have a cohesive message that is across all platforms and mediums. Your professional and personal networks are incredibly important, and I'd work on these, building on these on a daily basis. Time management is very important. Like I said, you guys are MBA students. You have a very full course load. I don't suggest setting up a Twitter account, a LinkedIn, a Google Plus account, an Instagram account, a Facebook account. Start your own website, do your blog. That is, to the extent, probably too much for you. So you need to figure out what works best for you. If you don't know, you need to ask. And so again, time management is very important in building your brand. If you don't know how to do something or where to start, the first step is to ask. And so we are all very willing to help you with whatever you need. You don't need to do all of these things. You can always just start with one. And I think that leads right into the end of my presentation. So I hope this has all made sense. Again, I'm very passionate about personal brand, and I really think that I understand how much it works from a recruitment perspective. But at the same time, I myself am building my own personal brand. And I think I suggest you do the best effort that you can to build your own personal brand. So I do have one more slide to go through, but there is one method to saying that you have watched this whole presentation. So I apologize, it was 40 minutes. I was trying to keep it to about 35 minutes. So I talked a little too long, but that's okay. Hopefully it was good information. But to get kind of attendance, I'm doing air quotes right now, for this particular session, Biz 501 session, there's going to be one thing you're going to need to do. So you'll go to the event page, and there's a Google form link to click. You click on that, you give your name, first and last name, I think is what it was, and then answer the one question. What is the one thing you're going to start to do today to work on your personal brand? It just starts with one thing, and I think that's really important to note. And this is my last slide that I have. What do you want your personal brand to look like? Do you want it to look like a superhero, have a really good positive influence on people? And I'm sorry to bring Homer Simpson into this presentation, but it was the best example of what I could find that was the opposite of what a superhero is. Homer Simpson is a very funny individual. Would I want my personal brand to look like his? Maybe not so much. So again, I will leave you at that. I'm very, very open to having conversations about personal brand and how it can help you through your job finding process. So that is about all for me today. I'm back. Hi. Thanks very much for taking the time to watch this 43-minute presentation. I, again, will be willing to answer any questions that you have. I appreciate your time very much, and thanks for hanging out on air with me. Bye.